Topic today is developing over-the-top applications for multiple platforms. My name is Andy Beach. I'm a technical evangelist with Microsoft. I lobbied pretty heavily for my actual title to be application midwife because I spend most of my time trying to get media applications from start to finish and to actual launch. My role has often been trying to help support guys like we have here today on our panel working through the process. So we're going to spend some time talking about Microsoft, but really what we're going to talk about is the overall process of creating applications, where the problems lie, where you get benefit from being on multiple platforms, which one are the popular ones right now, and how these guys are trying to make it easier for media applications to be published. So why don't we start with a round of intros so that we know who that we're talking with today. Kirby, do you mind starting us off?
Hi guys, I'm Kirby Grimes. I'm co-founder and senior vice president of business development for Floatleft Interactive. Floatleft is a TV app solutions provider. We have 2 offices in South Florida and New York City. We help media companies and broadcasters expand and strengthen their OTT and TV everywhere services. We do a lot of custom development for TV platforms, so basically anything that is or plugs into a TV, so streaming media players, Roku, smart TVs, game consoles. We have solutions for mobile, tablet, web. We also have a suite of cross-platform personalization APIs that we use to help providers stand up things like cross-platform resume, ratings, favorites, watch lists, recommendations, things like that. Been around since 2009. We've built over 200 apps. On the TVE side, we're working with the nation's largest broadcast networks and cable networks. And then on the OTT side, we work with providers like GuyMTV, Curiosity Stream, Popcorn Flicks, to name a couple.
Great, thanks. Mano?
Mano Klessing, I'm co-founder and co-CEO of DigiFlair. DigiFlair, we're, again, a TV app company. Our focus is really in the TV space. We do, at the end of the day, our goal is to, wherever there's video, whatever the screen is, we can deliver an app there for consumption. And we love building an addictive experience to TV apps. And we work with tier 1 customers, ranging from Disney to Univision, Stars in the US. We work with Canadian companies as well, Rogers, Bell, to name a couple. At the end of the day, for us, we go to market in 2 ways. We either go with a custom professional services where customer wants to own the IP, they want to really create an immersive experience. We go to market that way. The other is we have a TV Everywhere OTT app platform, which is called Vidya. And Vidya is really, what we've done is really pulled in a lot of the heavy logics onto the cloud. It's a native UI on every screen. So mobile, tablet, connected devices or game consoles, true native experience, very quick to market, scalable, and very cost effective as well. So that's how we go to market on those devices.
Thanks, Mano. Michael?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Michael He. I'm the co-founder and the CTO of Newline. Newline is a company, a B2B company. We've been creating a platform providing OTT service for many of the content providers. And we specialize in the live sports. So NFL, NHL, NBA, UFC, MLS, just to name a few, is all rely on Newline to deliver their premium service. And we have a platform with the API SDK. We can enable our third-party partner to build applications for multiple platforms. Ourselves also create the end-to-end experience. So we actually deliver all the different applications for those primary clients on all the different platforms as well. Thanks.
Excellent. So obviously, I mean, platforms is an area that's just sort of in a constant expansion and contraction. We have a plethora of them right now. It seems like every few weeks there's a new platform, a new device, a new endpoint that we're trying to get the content to. Mano, maybe we'll start with you and talk about the customers that you're working with. How are they deciding which platforms they want to target?
Yeah, sure. I mean, generally, the platform that they want to go to market are, when you look at mobile, iOS and Android, they're the platform that most of our customers are either they're already on it or they're going to. And then I think the other devices they're looking at are based on adoption, right? And usually our customers, they care about monetization strategies and where they can maximize on the different platforms that have higher adoption. So when you look at mobile, you got your iOS and Android, then your Windows phone. On the connected devices side, we are seeing heavy adoption on Roku, Amazon Fire TV is another one that's picking up steam, and then I would say on the Microsoft side, Xbox has been a great focus on that side as well because of definitely the adoption, and so Xbox has also been a great success in terms of getting traction with the customers.
Do you feel like there's, when someone's starting a new application, and Michael, maybe you can answer this one for me, as someone's starting their over-the-top solution for the first time, is there the, I have no idea what that sound is. Is there, are they looking at strategically where they need to be, and is that different from which one are the popular ones? So I think we all agree, like the ones I always hear about are everybody wants to be on Xbox, everybody wants to be on iOS. And then strategically, there may makes sense for somewhere else for them to be. Either they have a niche market there, or they know that they can monetize it easily. How have you seen that play out?
Yeah, so I think there's two different cases. In our customer base, something as premium content, those content provided like NFL, NHL, NBA, they easily have those platform vendors go to them, offer them some business incentive for them to build application on those platforms. So that's in addition to the basic, the web, the iOS, Android, other platform, usually based on the business priorities and what kind of relationship with those vendors. But for other kind of content provider, their content is not as popular or not at that level, then, like you say, they really target based on the audience base, where their user base is. Definitely, we see besides mobile, like the model say the Apple TV, the Chromecast is very popular, the gaming console is popular. But everything, I think all the clients come to us, they want everything available on all the platforms. At the end, you still have a limited time, limited money. So based on your budget, you can only choose. So most of them we do by phases. Right? So the first year, we do the web, iOS, Android. After that done, we expand to others. And like Android, once you've done the Android, you can easily make it available to Android TV, make it available to Fire TV, and so on, because that's reusable.
So it's much more of a relationship with the publisher that you have long term. It's not a one-time event.
You're right.
That happens. Kirby, do you find that also to be the case? Is that how? I guess two questions. How are they doing the priorities, your customers, and then is it that long-term relationship where you're rolling them out over multiple platforms over time?
Yeah, I mean, to Michael's point, and to your point, there's so many devices out there. There's new ones coming up. They use different technologies. You have some platform operators supporting different devices. So just it's a matter of, I mean, it really starts with the commercial agreement with the publisher and the OEM, and then establishing the economics, if there's any promotion or marketing exchange in between. Reach. So how many devices has been sold of a certain device? What's the engagement? Also, what's the fragmentation? If I stand up an app on this platform, are we going to reach close to 100% of the users on that platform, or do I have to look at creating multiple builds just to really take advantage of a 50 million device sold unit? Also, I mean, cost timeline, so phase things out. I mean, you can't be everywhere right now. Most people can't anyway. So really just looking at the devices that make most sense. Also, can you create an app, to your point, if you create an Android-based app, I mean, Android mobile, tablet, Fire TV, Android TV. Same thing with HTML. You can kind of port, I hate to use the word port because it gets taken literally too many times, but basically you create an HTML app for one device. I mean, you can do a lot with that across other devices. And the other things too, I mean, there's platform operators that are not attached to any specific device. I mean, even Roku now, Opera TV, Android TV, I mean, you could create one app and basically reach a bunch of different types of devices across a whole slew of manufacturers. So it's a combination of all those things.
I feel like I've seen a trend too in the publishers. Initially, I would say maybe 3 years ago, they would just create for the different platforms that they wanted to be on. And each one tended to have their own design standards, their own development standards, everything. And now I feel like they're trying to take that back and they want all of their apps to look alike and function alike seamlessly across the platforms. They may be different under the hood, and they most realistically are different under the hood for many of the places, but they want the look and the feel to be identical. They usually pick one platform, whether it's Roku or iOS or something, and they say, this is our gold standard, this has been our most popular, we want every design that we have to flow from that. Regardless of which platform it's on. Have you had that be the case, Michael?
Yes, I agree with you, Andy. Like NHL is an example. 2 years ago, we have the Game Center Live available on 12 different platforms. But based on the usage, we actually scale back. Like you say, they don't want to support so many different devices. But the key is, how do they create a consistent user experience across all the different platforms, which is I would say that's the #1 challenge, because in the design, you want to have a consistent brand experience, but how do you leverage the special features that each platform can offer?
Sure.
So to balance between these two, I think all of our customers I would say that's the #1 challenge they're facing.
Mano, where are you on that?
I think what I would add to that would be is that, you mentioned brand experience. I do agree. Brand experience is something that our customers are very passionate about, and you want to make sure that that experience is holistic across all platforms. But one thing is that where I would actually disagree would be on creating an experience that's the same across all devices. I think we've gone through a lot of experiences, and we built holistic apps that are across different devices, had both same experience versus not. And what we feel like the success has been is that you do have to stay true to that platform. So if you're building an app on Xbox, you want the experience to be Xbox, because I'm a user, I may only have Xbox, and I use all the other apps on Xbox, and I use Xbox as my primary entertainment device. I don't want the Xbox app to look like that was a Roku app. So you want to make sure the customer experience has to be that it's true to the platform, but where I do agree is that the brand experience, when I go to an HBO app or a Starz app, I want that to be, I want to know that I'm actually in that app, that Starz content, and so that's where I would agree on.
So maybe your hardest job then is striking the balance between the platform and the publisher.
Yeah, and that's what we've taken into our product as well. Like, in our product for Vidya, we actually made that decision to actually offer true native experience on each device, because one, we also make sure that the OEMs and the certification process that it goes through actually pass. The other is we want to make sure that we're true to that experience that's there. And we made that decision. How we did it was to abstract a lot of the heavy lifting onto the cloud side, and really have a thin client that's just the UI with the API hooks in it. So.
Kirby, anything to add in there, in that balance between sort of the awkward position you get between the publisher and the platform, and in both features and design, look and feel?
Yeah, I mean, sharing both of these guys' point, I mean, the #1 thing that clients are requesting of us is they want that cohesive experience across all those platforms. That being said, I mean, you still need to be true to the native platform, and that's a Roku user is going to be able to navigate with closing their eyes. They know how to get from screen to screen. I mean, you still want to offer that nativeness of each platform, but at the end of the day, if I'm coming in at Roku, or I'll leave Xbox out, but or a smart TV. I mean, you don't want to discriminate your users across platform. I mean, you want to deliver the same user experience to them at the same time too. I mean, you do want to make sure that you're not making them jump through hoops just to browse the content catalog. So it's just striking a balance between both of those things, which is not the easiest, but I mean, just keeping the consumer in mind. I mean,
having been on the Microsoft side of that, I will tell you that watching the evolution from 360 to where we are today on the One has been very unique. The 360, almost by want of them sort of putting a media application into an existing platform, there were a lot of requirements and a lot of UI constraints that they had to put onto the applications, which was a very tough conversation that many of you guys had. And many tough conversations I had where publishers said, no, really, is that what it's like? Is that really what we have to do? And unfortunately it was, and it was because we were putting it into something that it had literally never, I mean, at that point, even when the media applications came to Xbox 360, the hardware was 6 or 7 years old at that point. I mean, think about it. Think about trying to create a Roku app for piece of hardware that was invented 7 or 8 years before you even thought of it. Pretty challenging. With Xbox One, they tried to make that better. They tried to be much more open to it. And from the beginning, they said, here's a set of design guidelines that we have, but it's really open to whatever you want to do. There are no UI constraints that we have in that sense in terms of look and feel. There were certainly some constraints that they had in terms of how the technology works with the UI, and that mostly was around our unique features, like the ability to do gesture control and voice control. And they wanted to make sure that was implemented correctly. And so there was a little bit of pushback that they had to do there, but as we now look, as we're migrating into the Windows 10 world, they're kind of throwing that even open and saying, hey, now it's whatever you want to create. And we want it to work, and we want you to test it and make it work, but beyond that, we want the experience to be as much as possible what the publisher's expectation is. So that's really how we've tried to put that together. In terms of the sort of the monetization, I do want to sort of highlight on that, because I feel like you guys, all three of you, have probably worked on a number of different models. And sort of, Kirby, we'll start with you. What are the trends in the monetizing for these OTT solutions today? I mean, we've seen the gamut of subscriber base, sort of the transactional video, sort of buy either a live event or a VOD event, ad supported. What are the people you're working with doing, and what are the ones that are sort of gaining popularity, I guess?
I would say the ones that we're primarily working on, they're subscription-based. So you pay a flat fee and you get access to the full catalog. We are doing a lot of implementations where it's a hybrid model. So it's subscription-based. You're going to get served some ads, and it could be to offset the costs of either acquiring premium content or creating premium content. But I mean, hearing so much about the ads, I mean, most of the stuff we're doing right now is more subscription-based. We do plenty of ad stuff, but I mean, 380% engagement of ad-supported OTT services year over year is crazy. So.
Right. Mano?
I mean, we do a lot of TVE apps, so for our MVPD partners, and generally they're all ad-based. A lot of ad-based support there. So that's one way. We've done OTT where it's a subscription-based as well. I think where the market is going, certainly with the OTT, the subscription, or even with Vessel launching, their model of going subscription with windowed, which is an interesting concept where if you want access to the content early, you pay for the subscription. Afterwards, it's through ad. So it's an interesting time where the market's going to land. I think it's just going to be a mixture of different monetization strategy, I think, for the next few years.
Sort of down to whatever works for the publishers.
I think however you can monetize and generate revenue off of your current catalog or your back catalog, and if the users are willing to pay for it, then why not, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Michael, anything to add?
I will agree. I think the content provider, they start seeing, they used to be able to build more apps, like they may have a free app and a premium application. Nowadays, they all try to consolidate into one. So in NHL case, they have a free Game Center app. They have a paid subscription service for Game Center Live, so you can watch a live video. The same thing for NBA. There's a Game Time, which is free, and then the League Pass is the subscription product.
So they're just doing all of them.
So they want to use the free content to draw the user to download the app, to use the application, upsell them for the subscription service, right? And then another model is using TVE, the TV Everywhere application, like a tennis channel. They have a syndicate TVE application. But on top of that, they have a tennis channel plus, which is a subscription product. So that way, but they want to keep it into one application because it's too difficult to market multiple applications. And that we see that's the trend that everybody's doing.
Yeah, I feel like the freemium model where there's some content that's available, and it's probably ad supported, but then to get either to the wider audience or to lose the advertising, you have to subscribe. I think that's probably a model we'll just continue to see. So it's moving out of our games on our iPhones to our OTT apps now. It's certainly something that I've seen out there. Is there a part, and Michael, maybe I'll pick on you again, since I'm trying to bounce it back and forth so we just don't keep going in the same row. But
Sure.
When you're looking at deploying to multiple platforms, I know that you're rolling it out over time. Totally get that, and it makes sense. But where is it that you as the developer are spending the most time with it? What's the hard part of this? Like where is your real cost in terms of trying to stand up, say, iPhone and Android or iPhone and Xbox at the same time? What is that challenge that you actually have to spend and deal with the most?
Okay. When I look back with all the efforts we put into creating the applications across multiple platforms, I would say there are 4 areas we are always facing challenge. The number one we discussed is the balance between the design, how we can design for each of the platform that have a consistent brain experience, but also leverage the spatial, like a mobile experience, had to be different than a temporal experience. That's always the design challenge. And when the design is not final, you may create an app multiple times. You deliver the first time, they feel that's not right, we have to make the change, right? So that's time consuming. The second is the video. Across all those platforms, the video experience is not consistent. How to deliver, because each platform, the video player may have a certain limitation. So in our case, we have to create our own HRS player to provide more consistent experience for the Android platform, for example. Right? So that's one challenge. Then the business logic, a lot of time those combined app, authentication, subscription, those business logic, how do we externalize on the server side so we can simplify the application development. So those are the areas I feel it is a challenge. Then the last one is third-party integration. In the app, a lot of time you have to do different kind of tracking, different kind of third-party, the ad integration, and those different SDK, when you put that all together into one app, there could be conflict. So those are the 4 things we see. It's always the issues.
Mano, what?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with Michael. I think when you look at, the core of the app is video playback, and with video playback, you have complexity, and as Michael alluded to, there's the other component of DRM. When you have content that's studio required DRM, then you got to deal with those type of DRM, and then the third-party integration that goes with it. Authentication is another big play. When you're dealing with either MVPD or where you got to do integration with, most cases it's Adobe Pass. And certainly I think overall the video experience, there's a lot of key metrics that go into it, and that's got to be measured. The ad revenue's got to be make sure that's tracked. So those are the things that we deal where we spend a lot more time.
Yeah. I feel like the areas that sort of just riffing off of that, the 3 things that I've most often seen, totally agree, the authentication and SSO invariably takes longer than anybody wants. That it just without a doubt, because it's sort of, unless you own the back end where the content's coming from, there's not a lot of control. So it's a lot of 3 or 4-way conversations to get that up and running. Same thing with the ads. If there's ad insertion, the logic behind it and making sure that it all works. And because often you don't want those to go live, so you're trying to work with test accounts, and then you're having a last minute swap out for the live, and do the live now work? That becomes a problem as well. So those are challenging areas. And then I think the last one that I've seen, particularly in the last year, that's crept up in the US is closed captioning with live content. Has just been a ridiculous challenge. It's because there's so many platform dependencies on it, but then nobody's infrastructure is necessarily delivering in the same way. So it's finding that conformity of making everything work. It's like trying to hit a perfect golf ball every time.
Well, and also, even the native players don't support the closed captioning that you need.
Right.
So you almost have to customize it and build on top of that.
Kirby, what about the challenges from you guys?
I mean, all of you guys summed it up. I mean, it's the third-party APIs. I mean, all we focus on at Floatleft, we're the front-end solutions provider, so we have the experience down, we have the fragmentation down, we build products, development kits, and things that really support standing up these apps. It's just I'll get an API document from somebody, I'll get one from somebody else, even though they're doing the same things, they're completely different, and just supporting that each time. So there was a product that we introduced just to combat that problem. It's not just entitlement, it's not just ads, it's not just delivery, it's not just closed captions, but that might just be for the New York City area. In Toronto, we need to do this, and here we need to do somewhere else. And just the business logic underneath those apps could get very massive. I mean, it's similar to an iceberg. I mean, you look at an app, oh, it's simple. It uses the Roku templates. It's nothing to it. Underneath, I mean, it's like it's navigating through the waters. You see iceberg. Is it 6 inches beneath the surface? Is it 60? Is it 6 million? That's how convoluted some of this stuff could get in the back end. So it's just integrating with all that. I mean, there's no real turnkey way to deal with somebody's APIs that are completely different from the next person you're going to come across. So we launched a product, it's Flix, it's a lot of these APIs, these personalization APIs, just to combat that problem. And there are APIs, we are already integrated with them, and if a publisher doesn't want to learn how to figure out how to create cross-platform APIs to support these features, we have that available. So it just makes all of our lives easier. And then to the OEMs, certification process, I mean, it's not going to run afoul because there's APIs that, even though we just build into the app, they're crashing the certification process because, well, some guys, he's modifying them because of an Apple app, and now you're like, what's going on? It's just dealing with that, to be perfectly honest. It's a third-party APIs.
I've heard those certification runs can be pretty challenging at times.
And I have no control of it. It's the most frustrating thing.
The Xbox one is.
Yeah, no, I speak nothing of the Xbox certification process. Well, so maybe before we open it up for questions, I wanted to ask, what are so those are sort of the times where you're spending the most time. Is there something that is the easier part? Is there a free thing that you get as you're trying to develop for the multiple platforms? Because that's what I always hear from the publishers and the business guys that I talk to, is they want to know, like, where is the benefit for getting onto the multiple platforms? Is there something that is the easy part of that? Michael, is there any piece of this? Is it? I tell you what, I'll give you a second to think, because I'll tell you the one that I think is finally better for it. And if we leave closed captioning out for a moment, I feel like the video standardization has gotten easier. Mm-hmm. It used to be much more challenging in the days of codec wars when we argued about which one we were going to use. Mm-hmm. Now it's more or less all HLS, and it's all H.264. Everything supports it, or there's something that will make it support on that area. And we're all slowly making our way into Dash and 265. And there'll be some other players out there, but I feel like those are the ones that are going to get there. So unless you have a very specific large infrastructure, and I'm thinking the Time Warners and the others of the world, they're going to have unique issues, maybe because they're bringing in several thousand channels of content at the same time. But if you're a smaller organization, you probably have your content fairly under control, and with only a few minor tweaks, you're probably able to get it to play back on just about any platform that's out there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think the video is nowadays everybody using H.264. I agree with you, Andy. I think that is more standardized, easier to play back. HLS is still the dominant streaming protocol, so that does help. But I think the challenge and the other area help is the platform SDK, and the tools is a little bit more mature. So after a couple generation now, for the developers to develop an application on iOS, on Android, they get a lot more library they can use, right? So that's I think that really help in general. But from our point of view, because we've been doing this for a long time, we accumulate a set of service, SDK, and the library that can simplify for us to simplify our development effort moving forward.
Right. Mano?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I mean, when you look at a TV app, there's really common components or ingredients that make up a TV app. And so with that, we've integrated with, probably 80% of those different services that are out there. And so a lot of those learnings, having that really makes building a next app much easier, and so that's definitely a great takeaway from that. We also, I think we find is that we've done now multi-platform apps, so we understand the user experience as well. So that's gotten much better, where we're able to know that when it's a mobile experience, we know what what we got to design for versus a 10-foot versus a tablet. So I think those learnings that we're able to take in. We're able to do that, but I would say those are the things. At the end of the day, it's still, these projects are not that easy, but
right.
Yeah.
We'll always find a way to make it hard.
Yeah. Well, it's as Michael said, SDKs change. There's new features coming in. There's now a smartwatch to think about.
Yeah.
So a customer's gonna ask, hey, what can I use this smartwatch for here? So yeah, there are always new technologies that are coming out that do, put a mix into this.
Yeah. Kirby, what about for you guys? Just to close
it
out. Yeah,
what these guys said, anything you could get from the SDK, whether it be a component library, any templated screens you can leverage, any sort of reference apps that any one of us may build that we can re-provision for somebody else, any portion of that screen, any component of a screen we can repurpose, whether it be a slider or this animation effect transition, anything like that. Any sort of again, with that portability word, anything you can leverage in terms of like a cross-platform framework that you can hit one platform and really future-proof all that device class just with one app. Just in pre-integrations, doing this and building so many of these apps, we're pre-integrated with pretty much most of the main vendors, the best-in-breed vendors from OVP, CDN, ad, subscription, entitlement. So that obviously helps if we can leverage a pre-integration we have with a certain vendor. So when the next person comes in with that vendor, we're already set up, ready to go. Just give me your credentials, and that part of the equation is done.
I think from the Microsoft side to kind of round all of that out, they recognize that they have been as much the problem in the past as any other. They obviously have a smaller market in things like phone, but want to make it easier for people to adopt those platforms, which is why we saw announcements at Build 2 weeks ago, where you'll now be able to bring your native Android app over to the Windows platform and to be able to run it and actually have hooks into some of the unique Windows features without having to go out and create a native code app from the start. So it's ways to get people jump-started into that community and see if they actually have an audience there and a market there. But also using our Visual Studio tools to publish to iOS and other places. So trying to make it as flexible for the developers, for you guys that are out there for doing those exact kind of things. So I think as in the world of Windows 10, they're trying not just to make the platform uniform, but make the tool sets more workable, whether they're working on Android or iOS or Windows. We hope there's some Windows in there, and we hope there's an Xbox in there. At least I do, because sure. I still have fondness for it. Well, we've only got about 10 minutes left, but I did want to make sure that there was at least a little bit of time if there were some questions from the audience. Is there anything that we missed? Yes, sir?
Yeah, I was curious. I wrote down several of the discussion points, and time again kept on coming up with third-party certification being challenging and things of that nature. Why haven't any of y'all actually looked at all the other third-party categories within the ecosystem and try to provide that yourselves so that you have a more seamless solution?
So the question for those who couldn't hear was, the third-party certification is often a challenge, and have the development companies themselves looked at taking on that and becoming sort of the expert?
Because I'm sure it's a hassle for the publisher too, right?
Sure.
Well, most likely that's probably one of the main challenges for them, is trying to keep all these glued together properly.
I'd say, and I can only speak for the Microsoft versions of those certifications, but even within our own organization, there were multiple certifications per platform. And again, this is sort of pre-Windows 10, where each of the business units ran separately. So it was a matter of becoming an expert in each of those. And I will say that the dev shops I've worked with up here have all become certain experts for that. But the problem that they would then have is that either a new version of something comes out, or something on the back end changes that without realizing sort of invisibly impacts the application, whether it's a change of like a secured endpoint for the video content, or most often what I've seen happen is someone moves the ad tag without telling anybody, and they're like, oh, we didn't, now suddenly we're serving 15 ads instead of 1, oops. Those are real world problems that we've seen. But I mean, where's when we talk about third-party certifications, you know, I guess how much of your time is spent with those? Is that a lot of time? Is it more than you probably want?
Yeah, I mean, we spend quite a bit of time just making sure that the certification gates are you know, done efficiently. And so within our team, you know, we've got a very strong QA team that are specialized on each platform and the certification that's requirements. So, you know, an example is like either Xbox or Roku. We've got a plethora of experience on having gone through those certification gates and making sure that we don't repeat those mistakes again. And then also having that close relationship with the actual certification team itself to understand, you know, what are the gotchas, what do we need to look for. So building that relationship is important as well.
Yeah. I think sometimes not so much certification, just because we use those third-party SDK. So one of the area like tracking, if you do Nielsen tracking, amateur tracking, those tracking, how to make sure all the reporting metrics are filed at the right place to verify all the data get reported correctly. That usually very time consuming. Then there are certain like an ad platform. If you want to do a mirror, to testing that, verify that, make sure everything is done right in all the different use cases. That's very time consuming.
Yeah, because one of the, you had mentioned it earlier with dynamic insertion, server-side ad insertion.
Sure.
When you have all these multiple streams, you know, you have to have, you know, from the production side, it's got to be messaging that has to be interpreted through the encoding process that has to be interpreted again through the dynamic ad insertion process. How do you guys deal with all that?
Well, I mean, fortunately, it's these guys dealing with it, so I will exclude myself from it. I'm usually the one that they're calling and troubleshooting when it's not working. Yeah. There's a lot of conversations. I mean,
now you're serving unique streams, right? For targeted advertising.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, and that I will say that, you know, to these guys' credit, like the hard part that they have is trying to stick to development schedules often. You know, I've seen highly unrealistic schedules come where publishers want to hit a target date for something, but, you know, deadlines slip and things don't get signed early enough, and so the dev inevitably starts late. And there are pieces that just take time, like exactly what we're talking about testing, and it's really a matter of having to go through not only QA cycles, but a number of dev cycles with test accounts and sort of staged deployments to ensure that all the signaling works at all the right junctures. But then you have to do a last minute sort of swap inevitably to your production codes so that you're actually now doing live signaling and testing sort of in the real world, but in in either a hidden way or in a way where nobody's looking in this direction yet. And so the reason that I think it's hard is that there's not a standard way to do it, because you're talking about, you know, they have their standard way of doing it, and they have their standard way of QA, but there's no guarantee. There's, you know, a handful of different ad companies that are going to be coming in that they're going to be working with. Each publisher is going to have a unique backend with slightly different APIs or slightly different ways that their feeds get published, and all of that subtly impacts the development and the part of it that may or may not be working. So it's almost like trying to, you know, it's like trying to paint a great painting, or the metaphor I used earlier, hit the perfect golf ball every time. Like it's almost not possible, because then a wind gust comes along and something goes funny on you, and it inevitably happens. I think we're constantly, and this is the challenge that these guys have all faced, we're constantly trying to find standard ways to do it, and the standard works basically about once, and then it's not a standard anymore, because somebody thinks up a new way.
I think one of the other things that, you know, as Andy alluded to, that we deal with is like, you know, when you have tight timelines, you know, in a perfect world, you would want all the backend APIs to be ready, and then you're building the app on top of that. You know, we haven't had that yet. I'd love to have that, but we haven't. It's generally like, you know, the terminology we like to use is like the train is moving and you're laying the tracks in front of it. And that's what happens. We're generally, you know, you're building the app and the services in the backend are still being built. And so a lot of challenges that come about and a lot of cycles are wasted there, because those are changing and you got to go back and vet and back. So there's a lot of, you know, communication between, whoever's managing the backend services and our team. And ultimately, you have to be able to work together to make this a success. Yeah.
The metaphor we always used was landing the plane while we're still building it, which is a decidedly scarier. Yes, sir.
What are your recommendations for getting content found on these platforms? Because you look at the
Right.
channels on some of these platforms, and it's a little intimidating. It's hard to sometimes make the case that you should build the app in the first place.
Sure. So the question was more around discovery. How do you get the content found on each of those individual platforms? And I'll as a speaker for one of the platforms here, I'll say that there are APIs that, in addition to creating the app, there's whole services built around the search and discovery. For us, it's the Bing search engine, and using that to look for content on any platform. And Xbox is an ideal example. So there are many apps that don't have Bing feeds, but if they do stand up these search feeds and ingest their content separately, like basically all that is in a way it's XML documentation that gets put into a system, and it references back to the app that these guys are building. And it needs to know how to talk to those applications, but it's not actually part of it. So it's actually something the publisher just has to take on for themselves. But highly recommend that you do it, because it is one of the ways that makes the app searchable outside of the app. There's certainly always ways that they can build in for searching the content internal to the app, but being able to then make it part of the overall operating system or dashboard and being able to find that content becomes sort of, again, the onus kind of goes back to the publisher and the services that they have stood up on the infrastructure. The more mature the publisher's infrastructure is, the more likely you're able to make that discoverability easy to do.
And then the other way to do it also is, I would say, is using recommendation engines. So there are various third-party recommendation engines that are out there that within your app you can leverage to do trending, what are social trending, and then you can also do based on what you're watching, using a lot of the metadata, trying to figure out what similar contents you may like. I still think that content discovery is still scratching the surface. There's a lot to be had there, and I think I think Netflix is doing a great job at it, but there's more that we could do with content discovery.
I'm going to take 2 more questions. We've got one over here first.
Obviously, like at the core of all of these experiences, the video playback, and basically my question is, like with live, obviously custom encoding is high. So how do you guys work with your clients to ensure that no matter what, like they make sure that they can actively play back on all platforms? Like, do you usually advise them on a one-size-fits-all strategy, or do you break it out into platform-specific manifests and requirements?
So the question was for playback of the content, how are we helping ensure that it will play back on those multiple platforms? I believe sort of captures what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Michael, you have a...
Yeah, so we have a video platform. So in that case, we usually take the highest bill rate from our providers. Then from there, we create all the different profiles, different kind of different bill rate, different profile for different platforms. So in the gaming console, Xbox, we very often deliver 720p, 60 frames. For the mobile, we will use different kind of profile. So typically, we try to leverage, but in a way, we will provide a set bill rate that's suitable for that device, and have the platform taking care of everything. And especially moving forward, we have HLS, we have a Dash, we have many different options. And the server side should have all the capability, but the client can make a different request, and we can just package it on the fly for them.
Great.
I think I'll add to one more to sort of, I know you had a quality aspect to that question as well, and I think some of the things that we do with video playback is there's a heartbeat, so that ensures the video playback is there, and then also there are metrics that are sent back to third-party systems that actually capture the quality of the delivery that the clients can look at and ensure that there's a continuous quality playback as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And so we don't have a video platform per se. We just do the development and interface with whatever the platform is. So many times we've created like native test harnesses, so somebody can go put their feeds in this and test how the quality is in each environment. We've done that.
Great. Well, I'm going to take one last question over here. You very patiently waited, and then they're going to kick us out, I'm sure.
All right. Well, so it sounds very daunting interesting really hearing from you, at least do it yourself. If I don't have the money to come to one of y'all guys, is there a resource to figure out what order you should approach things in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, assuming we've taken care of the browser and having iOS and Android app, where next and where after that?
So I think if I can encapsulate that question, it was it sounds like it's daunting and challenging. If you're attempting to self-publish on the platforms, what is the best path to move forward? Yeah, how to move forward. So speaking just purely from the Microsoft side, we do have a notion of being able to self-publish on the platforms as well. We make documentation available, and to the best of our ability, try to support those that are attempting to publish to it. One of the things that my program does is help those who are finding themselves overwhelmed find partners in our program directory like these guys that can work on them. And I will say that there's a pretty wide range of development possibilities that are out there. There are people who are creating very unique and bespoke platforms. There are people who are creating more of, aren't the world's greatest application, a little more cookie cutter, but they do exist and they get you on the platform. So there are ways to approach it, and I'd say it's sort of widely represented. But in terms of trying to find how to get on there yourselves, your best bet is to start with the publishers, or not the publisher, but the platform itself, the device, and the guidelines that they set out there. Often they have some sort of sample or template to get you started. At least that's the approach that we've taken, and I know Apple does something very similar. Is there any suggestion or advice to close us out that you have for those who are trying to get there but don't feel like they can yet quite afford all of your wonderful services?
Well, ideally you want the native applications, but like you say, if you couldn't afford to build all of those, at least when you have iOS, Android, you should definitely leverage the AirPlay so you can still make the content available on Apple TV and use the Chromecast, make your Android app can cast all the videos. Those at least give you a chance to expand the consumptions into those temporal experience, which will make them watch longer and more. But if your target audience, United States, Canada, UK, I think Roku is definitely a very popular platform to go with. Yeah. And the gaming console, that's always a good choice.
Mano?
Yeah, I think pretty much what Michael said, it's important. I think there are definitely, you can look at in terms of what content you're trying to get out as well. That's important. So if you have a very unique content, I think you definitely talk to the actual platform provider itself, because if you do have a unique content, they might be able to help support in terms of getting you onto that platform as well. So.
Kirby, close us out.
I'm going to share these guys' thoughts, but I'm going to say it is daunting, right? I mean, it's not an easy space to navigate.
Yeah.
Excellent. Listen, thanks for everybody for hanging around a couple minutes late. I appreciate it. Kirby, Michael, Mano, thanks so much for your time and your thoughts today. Really appreciate it. Thought it was a great conversation.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.